Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Rachel and I am knitting, not right now, but most of the time. And I have some knitting in my future because today is September 2nd and I wanted to take the time with this video to walk you through my knitting plans for the month of September. Before I get started though, of course I have to acknowledge my production team. Darby is here also. Usually she's hidden away on the floor under the knitting chair, but today she decided to perch. So I wanted to commemorate that occasion. So anyway, today, the day of filming is September 2nd. And this is my first video for the month of September. And I thought it would be a fun idea to try to get in the habit of starting each month going through my knitting plans, and then when we reach the end of that month, I can check in and see where those plans maybe stayed on track, maybe they deviated a little bit, who knows? But I'm gonna share with you my knitting plans for the month of September in today's video. Quick coffee break. So when I started thinking about what I wanted to accomplish during this month, the month of September, I got a little bit overwhelmed. And you may experience this too when you are thinking through all of your whips or works in progress, or all of the yarn that you have in your stash that you're excited to make something with, or maybe you have yarn coming from a pre-order. And if you take too much time to think of it, you might have a reaction like I did, which is a reaction of overwhelm. So I have decided to release myself from the pressure of being overwhelmed. I don't know if this mind trick is going to work, but basically I'm telling myself I'm off the hook for being stressed out about this stuff. So we'll see if like speaking that into existence actually brings it into existence. But basically I am dedicating the month of September to 4 different goals. So, and I'll share with you what those are. Actually 5 different goals. Okay, so now the list is growing. But 5 different goals. Some of them are bigger tasks and bigger undertaking than others. But I'm not approaching the month of September with this idea that I want to cast on 10 new sweaters, or I want to finish all of my works in progress, or I want to, I don't know, knit up half of my stash. Those are not the kind of goals that I am taking on for the month of September 2023. I am simplifying it. So I have decided what my high priority projects are, and those are the items that I am going to pursue. So the first thing that I am going to pursue, let's see, what did I say? 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe it's 6 things now that I think about it. Yeah, so it's 6. So again, the list has even grown just since I've sat here to like take stock of it, but 6 things that I'm pursuing in the month of September. Some of them are knitting projects and some of them are more like administrative projects for my, I don't know, the knitting empire that lives in this room, aka all my needles, all my skeins, all that stuff. So before I'll get into the plans that I have and walk you through those, I want to provide a little bit of my reasoning. So the reason that I've given myself permission to offload the mental burden of being overwhelmed by my whips, all the things I want to knit, all the things I could knit, is the looming deadline of going to Ireland in October. So for the Irish knitting tour, that's coming up really, really quickly, there's not a lot of time between now and then to accomplish everything that I would like. I had all of these ideas in my head about what I could make to wear in Ireland, even things as recently as, you know, my idea that I would make my KAL cardigan. These are my swatches I talked about in my treehouse videos. Even thinking that I would be able to finish that to wear in Ireland. And frankly, it's just not going to happen. There's just not enough time in the day. So there's the first factor of why I have absolved myself of this laundry list of things that I could do, or that would be great if I did, or this would look so good in Ireland. The timeline is just so short that I need to be realistic. So that's the first factor. The second factor is I have a job. So I was really fortunate and privileged over the summer to devote a lot of time to knitting without having to worry about other obligations outside of that. But now the semester has started. I'm teaching more classes than I've ever taught. So that keeps me really busy, and I want to do right by my students, and I want to make sure that, you know, I'm giving them a rigorous and enriching classroom experience. So those two factors are working together to basically make it so I need to be realistic and pare down my laundry list of things I would love to do. So hence we have 6 things that we are going to focus on tackling. So the first thing that I am choosing to focus on during the month of September is cranking some of my cabin collection skeins into socks. So I have the cabin collection, which is a collaboration with Kat and Penny Strickland of Cesium Yarn. I'm so sorry if you've heard this so many times before, but I'm just going to keep talking your ear off about it. Kat and Penny are a wonderful duo. They live in Roanoke, Virginia. Kat hand dyes this beautiful yarn, and Penny does a lot of the admin for their small business. So I'm really happy and pleased to collaborate with them on this collection. It's currently still open for pre-order. The pre-order opened yesterday, September 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's currently still open, and it should remain open for 2 weeks from launch day, or until they hit capacity. And of course, we will keep you posted on our Instagram stories if they are close to reaching capacity. But yada, yada, yada. All that to say, I want to crank several of my cabin collection colorways into socks. Few reasons I want to do that. I want to see how some of these colorways knit up. So for instance, cabin walls and fireplace, I don't really know what they look like knit up yet. I can have a pretty good idea based on what I know about reading skeins, which is, you know, I don't have expertise in it by any means, but I have an idea. But I still really want to see them cranked up. So that's my plan for September. I want to crank some socks for me and DJ to wear in Ireland. So that is one of my priorities in the month of September. And that shouldn't be too big of an undertaking because thanks to my Dean & Beans circular sock knitting machine, I can make a pair of socks or 2 pair of socks or 3 pair of socks in the span of a day if I am able to carve out that time and dedicate that time to it. So I'm confident I will be able to do that at some point during the month of September. That is on my list. The second thing I want to accomplish in the month of September also has to do with my Dean & Beans sock machine. And I don't really want to tell you too many details about it because it's kind of, I'm hoping to be a surprise. And I'm hoping I can actually accomplish it. So that's all I'll say for now. Basically, a project where I make something on my Dean & Beans sock machine and it's ready for Ireland. And I'll tell you more about that later. Okay, so we have 2 things from our list already identified. The first is to crank some cabin collection socks. The second is to crank a top secret Ireland trip item. The third thing that I have on my list of goals for the month of September is to work on my Lanark. I want to get as far as I can on my Lanark. Ideally, finish it. But if I can't finish it, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I just want to get as far as I can. And if I finish it, that will be the cherry on top. But the Lanark is a really, really beautiful pullover that has a zip here. So it's just like what I imagine you would wear sitting by the campfire or at a cabin getaway or an Ireland knitting tour. So I'm hoping that I can wear it there, but it's a really, really gorgeous pattern. Now, when I was in Oregon, I swatched for the Lanark and I swatched for it flat and in the round, because you will be knitting both flat and in the round throughout the pattern, depending on what portion of the garment you're working on. So I wanted to make sure I knew my gauge for both methods. And after I blocked these two gauges, I was kind of perplexed because I met row gauge perfectly. I had 18 stitches over 4 inches, which is exactly what's called for in the pattern. But I had 52 rows over 4 inches, and the pattern calls for 32 rows over 4 inches. So I just couldn't wrap my brain around how this was happening when I'm forming the stitches presumably the same way that Rebecca Clow was when she made her sample and then determined her gauge. But then the row gauge was so disparate from what it calls for in the pattern. Well, I figured that out, or I figured out, I don't know, a viable hypothesis as to why that happened when I cast this on yesterday. So I did cast on my Lanark yesterday, and I quickly found that the version of half fisherman's rib that I knit my swatches on is not the same as the half fisherman's rib written in the pattern. So the version of half fisherman's rib that I swatched was based on the half fisherman's rib I learned about in Andrea Mowry's Straya pattern. So I'm working on a Straya. It's in my whip timeout corner, and that was my first introduction to half fisherman's rib. I just thought that was the way you did it, so that's how I swatched. When come to find out, the Lanark half fisherman's rib pattern is actually written as half brioche. So I'm not sure how much that will affect the difference between the row gauge of my swatches to what the row gauge calls for in the pattern. But basically, this pattern is constructed where you knit a section, basically you knit a long rectangle for the collar, and then you fold it in on itself. So I decided I'm just gonna keep moving forward with the collar and then use the collar as my swatch. Is that a bad idea? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But in my mind, this is how I'm justifying it. My stitch gauge was perfect on these swatches. So I'm assuming my stitch gauge will also be perfect or nearly perfect with this method. So I'm hoping that I will still have the width and the circumference I want, whereas the row gauge is not necessarily as important. I can do some knitting math to make sure that I make this garment fit how I want, but that's my plan for now. I'm going to continue working on the collar, then I will put this on waste yarn, I'll block it, I'll measure my gauge, and I will move forward confident that I am on the right track. So I hope that works out. But that is the third goal for the month of September, is to work on my Lanark and get as far as I possibly can in hopes that I can wear this to Ireland in October. Again, if that doesn't happen, I'm not going to feel bad about myself. I'm not going to beat myself up. It is what it is. I'll have another cabin yarn project that I can wear and enjoy in Ireland, but hopefully it's the Lanark. So there is our third goal for the month of September. Okay, I just got the yarn for goal number 4 out of the bag to hopefully minimize the crinkling that you hear. But this yarn is for project number 4 that I hope to finish in September. And in fact, I have to finish in September, or at least in the early days of October, because this is yarn that my mom purchased from Webs or yarn.com to have a zig. So zig is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. It's a really nice drop shoulder colorwork detail pullover. And I made a version of this in, what was it? February, March, yeah, I had to have been done by March. But I made my version of this, and I shouldn't even say my version because it's not like I modified the pattern. I made my zig earlier this year in 2023. My mom needs a matching sweater, and my mom knits now, but she's not ready for color work. I think she could handle it, honestly, but you know, she's going at her own pace, and I support that. And I'm happy to make her a matching sweater. So we ordered the colors that match the colors Cascade Yarn sent me. So my mom and I will be matching in our zig sweaters at some point on the Irish knitting tour. So that is a must complete item during the month of September. I am not too worried about that because it's for my mom, so that's a great motivator. And it's a worsted weight yarn. This is Cascade 220 non-superwash. I find that the non-superwash Cascade 220 feels a little bit closer to worsted than the superwash Cascade 220. If you feel that way, let me know so I don't feel alone. But yes, this is a worsted weight yarn, so it will knit up quickly. I also maybe have, I don't know, delusions or unrealistic expectations about how quickly this will go because I knit mine up so quickly and I was like so stressed and so busy finishing up my PhD, and I did it. So why can't I do it again? Right? Right. Maybe that's just like the I don't know, the lack of a firm grasp on reality, and like misremembering what life was like when I was like waiting to defend. I don't know, but either way, I'm gonna make my mom a zig this month so she can wear it when we go to Ireland. All right, so that was goal number 4. First goal, cabin socks. Second goal, secret cranking Ireland project. Third goal, Lanark. Fourth goal, zig. Fifth goal, sheep camp. Okay, so here's my sheep camp. I finished it, but I didn't really because it wasn't wearable. I mean, it was wearable, but not to the point where I would reach for it and choose to wear it. It would honestly, to be honest with you, it would languish in my cedar chest, and I would never wear it if I didn't go back to add some tweaks and modifications after I cast off. So the first issue that I had with it is the neckline. The neckline in the pattern is a rolled neckline. Basically, you cast on with your smaller needles, you knit 6 rows, and then you begin your short rows and increases. Now, for whatever reason, it looks really beautiful on other people, I think, but on me, it just looked like it was trying to escape and like melt down my shoulders. And I just didn't like that. I did not like it at all. And I knew I would never wear it if I left it as is. So I knew I needed to modify the neckline. The first thing I did, and I filmed this, so you'll get a video eventually, but the first thing I did was I attempted to cinch it up with elastic thread. Didn't like how that looked. So what I ended up doing next was picking up neck stitches. I basically did my best to count 6 rows down from the cast on edge, and then I picked up the neck stitches. So the original neckline is still there. I didn't frog it back or rip it out. I just picked up the amount of stitches the pattern says to cast on, 6 rows down, and I knit like 8 rows of ribbing. And I'll show you a picture of what it looks like compared to when I first had the rolled neckline, and then when I have those modifications of the rib neckline. It really brought it up higher and instantly made it a more wearable finished object for me. The second modification that I knew I needed to do was add length. And if you have been following me on Instagram, you know that I am fine with a cropped sweater. I do not mind a cropped sweater at all. I often wear them over dresses, and that's like a really, like, basically my go-to knitwear style. It's great for when I'm teaching, it's great for conferences, it's great for my professional academic life, but also it's super cute. So I'll wear it anywhere. So anyway, all that to say, I'm not averse to a cropped sweater, but I don't know. This one felt like I should make it a full-length pullover. So I could wear it over jeans. I could wear it over slacks. I also have the versatility. My sister Anna told me about this trick where you can wear a dress and then wear a belt on the outside of the dress and kind of tuck your sweater into the belt. So with a full-length sweater, I could do that as well. So I'm gonna add length, so this is a bit longer. I think maybe 4 more inches of length and then the ribbing. So that is my goal number 5 for the month of September. And if I'm being honest with you, I think that I could finish this over the weekend. Today's Saturday, it's Labor Day weekend, so it's a long weekend. And I think this could be my weekend project, and then I will have 1 item checked off my 6-item list for my month of September goals. So that is number 5, and it's a quick fix. So again, even though the list grew since I sat down, I initially thought it was 3 things, but really it's 6 things. That's gonna get tackled really quickly, so not pressed about that. So we have our 5 goals identified. Now let's talk about the 6th goal. So the 6th goal is basically not having to do with knitting at all. I mean, it does have to do with knitting, but not with the practice of knitting. Like, this is not something I want to knit myself in the month of September. In fact, it's a goal that makes it so I knit less or with different things. Basically, I have too much yarn. Okay, let's just get to the point. I have too much yarn. Over the course of the last 1.5 to 2 years, I have been gifted an astronomical amount of yarn. I'm so grateful for that. But that means that I have a lot of yarn that I already had in my possession and my collection that just doesn't catch my eye anymore. It doesn't speak to me, or the projects I planned to knit it up into are like changed. So either I got new yarn from a dyer or a pre-order, whether I purchased it or was gifted to me, my styles have changed and I still want to make that project, but instead of the yarn I had planned for it, I want to use some new yarn that I've acquired or been gifted. So instead of just sitting on this hoard of wool, I need to offload it. I need to get it out of my house. So the 6th goal for the month of September is to destash. And to give you an idea, I have my yarn wall. It should be full, but my cabin collection yarn is sitting next to me on the desk. But a full yarn wall, each peg holds 2 skeins of yarn. So you can do the math if that brings you joy. It doesn't bring me joy, but basically you can assume there's a lot of yarn over there. Also back here is a Lane cedar chest, and it is full to the brim of yarn. There's a ton of yarn. Down here I have this container that's full of single skeins, and that's basically my skeins that I want to crank into socks one day. Single skeins of fingering weight that I just want to work through on my sock machine. So I don't need to keep all of those. I don't need to keep all of these. I don't need to keep all the yarn that's in the cedar chest. So the 6th and final goal for the month of September is to destash what I can and what I don't need anymore. I don't want to destash yarn that was gifted to me. I think that is a high honor, and I take that very seriously. So I won't be destashing that, but mostly yarn that I have purchased or that I've earned through sock cranking over the course of the last year, and I just don't have the capacity to knit it up. And so I would rather that someone else has it to enjoy and knit up instead of just sitting and not being used or admired, just sitting away, tucked away in a cedar chest. Doesn't sound like a good life for a skein of yarn. Anyway, okay, so those are my 6 goals. And I think that the sheep camp, like I said, I can knock that out this weekend. I think, excuse me, when did this fall out? And I think the destash, I could also get a big dent in it over the weekend and feel really good about my progress. I think I could make some cabin collection socks in a day or two. I just need to find which days are going to work best to do that. And then really the two big ticket items are the Lanark for me for Ireland and the Zig for my mom for Ireland. So ultimately 2 sweaters in the month of September, and I think I can do it. I think I can definitely get the Zig done and make good progress on the Lanark. I'll definitely finish the sheep camp. Right now, sitting here talking to you, I think these are really doable goals. Maybe I will check back in with you in a month at the end of September and say, what was I thinking? That was way too much. I don't know. I really feel like it's doable right now. But yeah, those are my 6 goals for the month of September. And I already know some of my goals for the month of October, but I simply can't start on them until I get back from Ireland. So that's the story. That's the deal. Yeah. I would love to know what your knitting goals are for the month of September, or your crochet goals, or your quilting goals, or your gardening goals, or whatever your goals are. Let me know. I would love to benefit from your wisdom and your organization and your, I don't know, goal setting. I think that's really fun to do. But that's all I have for you now. I'm going to check in with you next week and we'll see what the progress is. But I hope that you're doing well. I hope that whatever you're working on is bringing you joy. And if it's not, maybe pivot, because if it's not fun, it's not worth it. That's what I decided. That's what I was talking with Leslie of Knit California with this week. And I just wish you joy in whatever you're working on. Okay, that's it. That's all I have for you. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you don't already. If you want to be notified of my next upload, hit that notification bell. And last but not least, head over to Instagram and follow me over there if you don't already. Okay, happy September. See you next time. Bye.